I can't say this guy enough. He's a piece of. I hate him. Can't stand him. It was the rapper Nas. He was the worst.
Welcome to High ISO, the photography and business podcast,
where we talk about life as a professional photographer.
I'm Robert Hall, an editorial photographer from Michigan.
And I'm Justin Haugen, a wedding and portrait photographer from Arizona. Rapid fire. Who are you? Where are you from? What do you do? Pineapple on pizza? Yes, no, and why?
Sure. My name is Jonathan Thorpe. I'm from Washington, D.C. Commercial and portrait photographer. What was the other question? There's something else.
Pineapple on pizza. Pineapple on pizza. Yes, no, and why?
I eat pineapple every day. Like literally, I eat pineapple in some shape or form every day. So yeah, pineapple on pizza is fine.
Well, there's a certain benefit to that, I've heard.
I don't want to, I'm a people person.
Yes, it's great for your skin.
You're very pleasant in one area of your life.
I'm a humanist.
That's great. Yeah, I just saw you at WPPI. We got acquainted here for the first time, and it was nice to meet you. I'm an admirer of your work.
Thank you. I always find it weird that people like my photos at all. It's such a bizarre feeling for me.
Why is that?
Just weird. But I don't know. Like my background and how I became a photographer is ridiculous. I used to be a doctor and then just quit to do this full time. So like it's just been it's been very weird that this career flourished, and it's been, I think, 13 years full time. So I'm still in that frame of mind of like, really, you think my pictures look good? Like it's still hard for me to like get past that a little bit. But yeah.
Wow. I have to say that's probably like, I've heard engineer to photographer a lot, but never doctor.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
So I was an eye doctor for all of maybe a month and a half. And then I quit to do photography full time when Adidas licensed an image from me for like $30,000. And I was done. I was like, all right, well, I can do this now. So I'll just do this. And I quit my practice the next day after I got that licensing and just made this work. I got my first camera as a graduation present from optometry school for my parents. And that's kind of where it all started. And like 3 months later, I had a published photo with Adidas that was a banner in every Dick's Sporting Goods in the country. So it was very much a right place, right time situation. And, yes, luck exists, but I think luck doesn't matter if you don't have the foresight to like pursue something like that. And I knew how rare it was to be noticed by a company on that size. So I just jumped on it and just ran with it and said, okay, well, if they're noticing me right now, I don't think this is a fluke, and I'm just going to continue this and see where it goes. From there, my next client was Red Bull, and then I worked with BMW a little bit, and then some stuff for H&M, and it just started like kind of snowballing out of nowhere. So I was teaching myself photography the whole way because I didn't know what I was doing, but I kept acting like I knew what I was doing, and it worked out okay.
I quit.
Okay.
I quit.
So, right, I'm done. Podcast over. Thanks. We all envy you. Yep. No, I actually have a question because, so you said it was like within 3 months that, you were shooting for Adidas, or you had the image licensed by Adidas. I had similar, not quite at the same level, but I had a very great commercial job with Nike very early on in my career. But what I didn't understand at the time was like the relationship between agencies and brands directly and the photographer. And so immediately after that gig, I had quit my job, which also was not a doctor. I was waiting tables. I quit my job because I was like, I made it. And I didn't see another like high level client for probably 3 years.
Yeah,
totally. I made it through other retail work, but I did not see, it's not like Adidas came calling the next day. And a lot of that came from the agency just never working with that brand again. Like they split after that and all my contacts were gone. Right. So how fast was Red Bull immediately following Adidas?
So the Red Bull thing, the Red Bull's an interesting story. and the Adidas is an interesting story too. So the way that I got the Adidas thing was I got the camera. I knew I wanted to do something with it. And I randomly got this gig off of Craigslist shooting an NCAA lacrosse tournament. And it was like $100 a day for 3 days from like 6 a.m. until 9 o'clock at night. And I was like, holy crap, that's insane money. I'll never make that money as a doctor. Like, I just thought that was huge money at the time because I didn't know any better. So I took the gig, and then one of those images ended up getting licensed by Adidas. They happened to just see it, and that was it. The Red Bull thing was really a similar story. It was a basketball tournament happening here in DC, like a street ball tournament, and they have known that I had done this live stuff for this lacrosse thing. So it was kind of it's the same gig, just basketball versus lacrosse. But what happened during that was the whole time I was shooting this tournament, there was one player that stood out the whole time named Andrew Washington. He was just dominating the court and just had a lot of charisma and was just a cool guy. So after he was done with his set, I walked up to him and was like, hey man, I'm here shooting the tournament for Red Bull. Would you mind hanging out afterwards and let me take some portraits of you? Like, you're larger than life. I just want to take some shots of you. No big deal. Because I knew I wanted to be some type of portrait shooter. I knew I wanted to shoot people. And he agreed, and he hung out for like 4 hours. We just kind of talked a little bit. And afterwards I shot these portraits of him. I used lights, and I was still kind of learning lighting and still teaching myself a little bit of stuff. And when I went to send the photos out to Red Bull, I accidentally included those portraits in the link. So they're looking through all the shots and go, everything looks great. Thank you so much. But what are these shots at the end here? I'm like, there's just, sorry, I didn't mean to put those in, those are just some portraits I want to play with. Accident. Well, it was an accident because I thought I was going to get in trouble because like maybe they're like pissed that I like did my own shoot on their dime kind of thing.
Sidelined the talent.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. But it turned out there's a magazine named Dime Magazine, which is like the subsidiary magazine to NBA magazine, and they needed an image for their cover, and that was the guy that they were scouting to be that cover anyway. So they ended up using those images for the cover of that magazine, and that was my first cover, and that was a total of 6 months from getting a camera, was getting that cover of a who's now playing in the NBA of him. And I still use the photo in my portfolio. It's still like a relevant looking image, and that just comes back to that same thing, like being able to notice when these moments present themselves and just jumping on them without even hesitation is what really kind of sets people apart in photography, I think. And just being a little aggressive about how you take control of your career, I guess. I don't know how else to really phrase it.
Wow. So you went from 6 months of first got the camera, and 6 months later you're landing these clients. Like, that's an incredible stroke of time. I'm not going to say luck, but timing, fortune. Yeah, fortune meeting preparation. Sure. I like that saying. Like, luck is fortune meeting preparation. Like, that's obviously you had other talents or skills about yourself that lended itself to how you could acquire those clients. Because nobody doesn't have something going for them and just falls into that. Like, you have, obviously, there's got to be some other skills that you have in your own life that translate.
Sure. Like, I grew up, my mother was a painter, so I was around art a lot as a kid. My dad was a mechanic. So it's like I got the technical stuff from my dad, that brain, and I got the artistic stuff from my mom. I got that half of the brain. And like skating with my friends when I was younger, we used to film ourselves skating and stuff like that. Was just something we always did. But I didn't know that photography or being a photographer was a career. I just thought, Vogue magazine hires somebody and that's it. Like, that's just that's all it was to me at the time. I didn't know there was this whole world of photography, and a lot of it, honestly, I'll say it is luck. I can say I know I have a skill set now, but at the time I didn't, and I was really just kind of putting this I hate to say it, this fake foot forward, and really kind of impress upon people that I know what I'm doing. And even if I don't know what I'm doing, I'm going to figure this out, and you're going to be happy with what you get, and that's going to be fine. But yeah, a lot of luck, a total. I mean, having those clients in my portfolio that early on, let alone any time in one's career, is 1 in a million. Like, that's the 1%, 2% of photographers who want to shoot that stuff. And for whatever reason, I got the magic wand. Like, they said, here you go, see what you can do with it. And I don't want to sound I don't want to sound like every client I've ever had has been a big commercial client, because between Adidas and Red Bull, there's a couple months in between that, I was shooting kids' birthday parties for $30 for 8 hours of coverage. Like I have crawled, I have walked, I've done it all. Like I was never too good for stuff at that time. But I was shooting, like the local person who has a jewelry company for like beads on like a wristband. I was shooting all that garbage. I was just shooting everything I could shoot. I didn't care. Because I knew that as long as a camera was in my hand and I was shooting something, my skill set would progress across the board. Like I would get more comfortable having that camera. So when Red Bull shows up, when BMW shows up, I might not know how to shoot a car, but I know how to work a camera. I know how to make that car work for me if I need it to. So it was all just about progressing my skill set as fast as I possibly could, because, med school bills were racking up. I was starting photography a little bit later in life. I was about 25 when I started, and I knew I had to like get ahead of the pack as fast as I possibly could.
Now you said, multiple times, kind of like the whole fake it aspect. Was there ever a point in which you can talk about that kind of blew up on you?
Was there a point that, kinda. I was doing a shoot it was kind of an e-commerce studio fashion thing for a brand. And I would say what happened was I didn't at the time have the patience to deal with clients yet. And I blew up on a shoot and I lost my temper and I kicked over a light and I walked off set and I said, fuck you guys, I'm done. I'm better. I had this whole like chest out moment, and that's not okay. Sometimes that's, you can do that, but at the time, looking back on it, their requests were nothing that like it's just normal requests on a shoot.
And that did not warrant that.
No, not at all. It was just ego walking out of that door at that point. So other than that, no, not really. Like I taught myself lighting early on. I can't take a natural light photo to save my life. If I was asked just to go outside on a cloudy day and take a picture, I would cry. I would struggle. And I would take G.I. Joes and hold flashlights around their heads. And that's how I taught myself lighting in the beginning, because I knew like I would look at images and magazines and I would look at movies. Cinema has always been like a big influence, and all the cool stuff was always lit, clearly lit. And I just wanted to make sure that my images tried to look like those, because I thought if I went outside on a sunny day and another photographer goes outside on that same sunny day, well, our images are going to look the same because we're using the same source. Granted, you can mix it up a little bit, but I wanted to control everything on set. So I started with lighting and just ran with it. And that's been my catalyst. That's what's really kind of progressed my career. So as long as I have lights with me, I don't freak out. And that was early on. Like I didn't freak out as long as I had some type of speed light or something with me. I could make anything work at that point.
Yeah. Now you've got like, you've already talked about some of them, but you've got a very epic client history: Apple, BMW, Red Bull. Somehow you've worked with CBS and Fox, which I find impressive.
Yeah.
Now is that list primarily through agency representation? I mean, obviously your first ones weren't, but like, where did that come into the fold?
So it's a little bit of mix, half and half agency. And then, in the last, I would say 4 to 5 years, as social media has gotten bigger, clients have started reaching out directly and not going through agency as much. I think we've all kind of experienced that at this point. They're saving money by doing that. It's a direct line of communication. The only downside to that is they can kind of run the shoot the way that they see fit versus having an agency as a go-between. So that can kind of cause some headaches. I do have an agent now, and I am represented now. So that's another like little layer of go-between when I don't have to really like deal with the client's bullshit. I can just have him kind of step in and deal with it. But like CBS was directly through CBS. Fox, I don't remember what that was. That might have been directly through Fox. But it's been a mix. It's been a mix across the board as far as how I'm getting to these clients and how they're getting to me. Any celebrity work I've done over the years, I don't know if this is a huge secret in the industry. At least it is in my world. I haven't really gotten paid for any celebrity work. And that's been me harassing them on Twitter, being like, do a shoot with me, do a shoot with me, do a shoot with me. And getting my followers to harass them on Twitter and harass them on Instagram. Because while I don't get paid for that work.
Such an unconventional path. I love it.
Like you have to be disruptive, and that's how I've always felt. And I'm like I said, I haven't gotten paid for that work, but the next client who hires me thinks I got paid for that work, so then my rates just go up on the next one. So I use those type of shoots as like a tier to get me to another price point throughout the career. Like I'm doing a shoot in a couple of weeks with some people from SNL. I don't want to say their names just because they're big, they're household names, and it's been the same way, just harassing them on social media, being like, hey, I'm only a couple states away. Let's do a shoot. I'm a good shooter. Let's do a shoot. Let's do a shoot. And that has led to me doing that has led to more work just by word of mouth in that world than anything else I've done, because that's the world I'm trying to get into.
There's going to be 1,000 photographers just harassing entertainers on Twitter
It's
now,
all right.
constantly.
Entertainers can use a little harassment. They get paid a lot of money for not a great reason. So whatever.
I'm like, it's given me some perspective because I'm trying to emerge more in a commercial space myself. I've been weddings and portraits, and I've got some corporate clients that kind of fund the whole operation here, but I want to shift away from weddings, and I'm trying to figure out like what my path is going to be as far as like building the portfolio and reaching out to these people. So I think I like your approach where I should just harass brands locally and people.
Time to open up a Twitter account.
A big tip I tell people, and this feels like it's a no-brainer, but I don't think people think that way. So like, if you go on Instagram and you search a brand, so Lululemon is one of my big advertising clients. I do a lot of work for the yoga brand Lululemon. But if you throw Lululemon into an Instagram search and then you click the little drop down for suggested companies, it'll give you all these yoga brands that are like a little bit a lower tier of a brand, but will absolutely hire photographers more likely just because they're a smaller brand. So it's the same quality of work. It's the same content, a little bit less prestige in it, but you're still getting paid to produce work that then Lululemon will see you doing, and then maybe you'll connect with them on a different tier. I've done that a bunch of times when I wanted to work with like a bigger brand. I'll just find a brand that's a little bit lower tier, shoot their content, and then use that as a step in the door to those other brands, because the bigger brands don't want to see a lower brand with really high quality work. They just don't want to see that. They don't want any type of competition that way. So if you're doing really good stuff for whatever, insert yoga clothing company here, and you show Lululemon that, they might just hire you because they see that you can do it and they want their work to be the best work on the internet. So that's been a big thing for me. Again, it's very disruptive. It's very aggressive, and it's very unapologetic type of marketing, but that's just how it's always worked for me. I feel like you have to be that way. And especially nowadays with attention spans just being nanoseconds, like you have to be just like hit and go.
Now, I have a question. You're saying, a lot of this is like, they will see that. And I feel like one of the things that stops a lot of people is they feel there is no way to be seen, especially by large brands online. So what is the vehicle here? Is it just DMs? Is it tagging them? Is it, how are you ensuring you're getting that content and having it land in front of them?
It's all of it. The biggest thing I can tell people is reply to people's stories, because they're looking at their phone when they're posting those stories. So if their story is posted like 2 minutes ago, chances are they still have their phone in their hand, and just hit them with a message straight from their story, because then they get eyes on it immediately. I just did a shoot with Sal Vulcano from Impractical Jokers. I don't know if you guys know that show or who he is. And that's how I got him. I saw him on his thing, and I just sent him a message like, hey, I know you're going to be in my town in a month or two. Would love to do a portrait shoot with you. And I saw that he saw it. He responded immediately because his phone is in his hand. So he has the time, because he's posting, he has time to talk. So he's posting stuff at the same time. So it's like, if you can capitalize on people's stories post, then you'll always get eyeballs on it, because you just know they're looking at their phone right there. They're in the process of doing something on their phone. And that message, again, it's disruptive. It stops them and makes them stop what they're doing and look at their phone. Or I'm sorry, stop what they're doing and look at the message, because their phone's already in their hand. So that, with tagging, with sending direct messages, researching who the creative directors are at companies and brands, and just throwing emails at them. I mean, it's all like marketing 101 crap that none of us like to do. I'm shitty at it. I hate doing it. But when it comes to like stuff that I really want to hone in on, I will be the most annoying asshole on the internet to get it. I'm like a hummingbird. Like, it just, hey, you want to do a shoot? 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 No? Why not? Why not? Why not? It just, because why wouldn't they? It's not going to be bad work. They're going to get good work out of it. They all have egos. They all have marketing people. They all have PR. Why not? Why not?
So I know a photographer, and I bring up this connection because I see you're represented by a Wonderful Machine. I think he is too. He was an art director, and he's an amazing commercial photographer named Clint Davis. And Clint's marketing game is incredible. Like, he goes through, like, he does the most effort I've ever seen into these marketing packages where he's cold calling brands. And he took Pelican cases for iPads, took bullet casings, and then hand painted 70 to 200 2.8 IS L lenses onto the bullet casings. And then he took a whole little portfolio of images, drilled a hole through it, and then sent that to marketing directors saying, "Take a shot with me," was his whole campaign. And he sent out like 100 of those or something. It was a ridiculous amount. And I love that kind of ingenuity. Do you do any kind of like marketing type, like, here's a physical thing and you just spam people with it? Does that stuff work out?
Yeah. So certain clients I'll do this for. I don't do this for everybody because it costs me a lot of money to do it. You guys remember from the 80s, like the Viewmasters? The little like thing.
Yeah.
So I've put my portfolio on those discs, and I'll send them a Viewmaster with a thing of popcorn and like a candy bar, like they're going to the movies. And they're not going to throw that thing away. That's going to sit on their desk forever, just as a talking piece. And it has 10 images on it. And I will cater whatever client as far as what images are on that, I'll cater that to whatever client I'm sending it to. And if it doesn't get me work, immediately, I know it will down the road, because I know they're not throwing that thing out. They're just not. They're going to keep that on their desk. They're going to show everyone in the office. They're going to make jokes about it, the whole nine. And I have one somewhere over there in my living room, and that's been awesome. And it's all branded up with my J Thorpe photo logo and stuff. It's the whole nine. It doesn't cost a ton of money. It's like maybe $100 to make one, but that's for, I'm trying to get Coca-Cola. And I'm going to send it to their agency and try to get that. That's where those come in. Other than that, man, I don't think people are doing print stuff anymore. I think it's all just digital now. But yeah, that's been the thing that's been fun. I used to make a book of images that were done in like the blue and green 3D and send those out with 3D glasses. So when they popped them on, it was like, again, the whole like day at night at the movies kind of vibe. But I stopped doing that and started doing the Viewmaster stuff instead.
Man. Going back a little bit, you mentioned entertainers, which I think that set of photography is probably considered like the mecca for most people.
Definitely is.
What steps do you take? I know it's obviously like personal projects, which obviously gives you a lot of creative freedom there. So what steps are you taking to work with these people to produce like colorful images and dynamic images? How are you actually like interacting with them one-on-one?
I've had one bad shoot with entertainers over the years. And I love telling the story. So if you guys want to hear the story, I'm happy to tell it.
Yeah.
Because I can't say fuck this guy enough. He's a piece of I hate him. Can't stand him. It was the rapper Nas. He was the worst. He was 4 to 6 hours late. No call. I'm just sitting there waiting for him to show up. I literally took one picture and he says, "All right, that's it." And he walked away. So like that one shot had to be the one, which is not terribly uncommon with celebrity. Usually you get like 5 to 10 minutes, but literally one frame. If he had blinked, I'd been fucked. So I called Def Jam. I'm like, "Hey, your boy just kind of showed up super late. It's like 2 a.m. and I took one picture and he left." And they go, "Oh, is the picture okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's fine." "All right, we'll send you a check." Hung up on me. That was it. For the most part, though, they've been great. And, they see my portfolio, they see the work I do, and that's what they want me to do. And I have turned down shoots with entertainers and celebrities over the past because they didn't want me to do my style. And to me, there's no value in producing an image that doesn't look like I shot it. I don't care who's in front of the camera. I don't care if it's whoever it is. It doesn't matter. Like, I don't want the photo to be good because of the person that's in it. I want it to be a good photo that happens to be of someone who's notable. And that has been very important to me. So when the conversation starts, I let them know right up front, like, listen, this is going to be a good shoot because I'm going to do what I do. And as long as I do what I do and you do what you do, this will be good. And if you don't want me to do what I do, then I don't want to show up. It's kind of like drawing a line in the sand, and it's never backfired on me yet. It's always been very welcomed, and it's been okay because at the end of the day, they're artists as well, and they want to create cool stuff and different stuff. So there's never been a lot of pushback. It's always been good, and for the most part, all the celebrities and entertainers I've worked with keep in touch regularly. Text me whenever they're thinking about it, the shoot, or thinking about a shoot, and they've been cool. Just Nas can kick rocks. He's a jerk.
Was he tall or short?
Short, and I'm 6'4", so I'm taller than everybody, but he was like exceptionally short. One of the coolest shoots was Eminem. Eminem has a clause in his contract that says he can't be photographed smiling. And if you think about it, you've never seen a photograph of him smiling. If you think about it right now, you've seen video of him maybe in movies, but you've never seen a photograph of him smiling. So he was joking around on set, cracking jokes, being really funny. And as soon as that camera came up, stone face every time. It was the coolest thing. He was such a pro. It was awesome.
Yeah, my brand's smiling. Fun. I wouldn't be able to pull that off. So, what do you think informs your process? Like, where do you said movies were a big source for that, but like, what influences you now? Like, what are you really into? Like, what's driving your creativity right now?
Still movie. I really do approach photography from like more of a cinematographer's viewpoint. It's really important how I want to light a scene that's going to push whatever narrative I'm trying to create. So movies has always been a really big influence. I don't really look at a lot of photographers' work. There's maybe, 5 shooters that are like very influential that I'll look at. People like Dan Winters or David LaChapelle, or Drew Gardner. Like, there's these photographers that have been around for a long time that a lot of people are influenced by. But I try to avoid looking at a lot of other photographers' works. I just don't want my style to start to look like someone else's on purpose. Granted, it's like music. You can only play the same few notes before a musician also plays the same few notes. Like, all of our work is going to look the same sometimes, but at least I can claim a little bit of ignorance when it does look like somebody else's work because I was just looking at their work. So movies for sure. Music plays a big role in that. And then when I'm not shooting, I just try to not do anything photography related. I do a lot of personal projects. That's still for fun. But if I'm not doing one of those, I'm spending time on my motorcycle, or I'm going to play golf with friends, or I'm going to do anything that just gets me away from it, because you can really, really burn yourself out in this industry, like, pretty easily. And you can really that imposter syndrome can start to kind of creep in a little bit and all this stuff. And I try to stay off social media as much as possible as well, because I don't want my influences to be from what's already being created. If that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, your free time sounds like the mark of a man who doesn't have any children.
No.
Is that the key to success? Don't have kids.
Said proudly.
Hard no on the kids thing. No, thank you.
Me and Rob are failing there. Rob's got how old's your baby now? 5 months?
5 months.
Yeah, I've got awesome. A baby. Thanks. I got a baby due in June, so we're about to lose all. Well, I'm about to lose all free time. I don't know how Rob does it. Rob's got his hands on a lot of pots.
Slowly getting it back, finally.
Yeah, it's too much. Well, we like to nerd out on gear. I'm more of a we love gear, but it's always a process and the like ethos of like what people are doing that's more interesting to us, because we always talk about gear. But what's your gear bag look like? What do you bring into your average shoot, or are you renting everything? Is there like a whole stockpile of things that you're bringing every day? Like, what's your daily carry look like?
So my like workhorse go-to camera, at least for photography, is the Fuji GFX 100. Wow, my exposure just got crazy bright in here. Should I fix that?
Go for it if you want.
Yeah, I'll do that really quick. The Fuji GFX 100 is the workhorse. There we go. That's better. What else? And I'm adapting all of my Tamron glass to that. It's all EF mount glass that I'm adapting with a Fringer adapter, which actually for the most part, I think all the glass covers the sensor fully. I don't think I have any real noticeable vignetting on that situation. Backup camera to that is what I'm filming this with. This is a Fuji X-T4. And then for cinema work, I have I have two Canon C70s that I'm doing for film. And then as far as lenses go, gotta have them all. 15 to 30, 24 to 70, 7200, 35 1.4, 35 1.8, 45 1.8, 85 1.8, 90 2.8, 35 150. I think that's it. But 85 and 45.
Oh, you got that new 35 to 150. How you liking that?
It's good. So I have the older one, the EF version, which is a 2.8 f4.
Okay.
But that lens on the Fuji body is awesome because I can't shoot at anything shallower than f4 anyways, just because the depth of field is so shallow in that body. But having that kind of zoom range on a medium format sensor is really, really helpful. So I use that a lot, actually. And at f4, that lens is incredibly sharp. But
I'm kind of baffled by this. There's no coverage issue with the EF lenses on the 100, but then you get the bigger sensor. So like 1.2 on that must just look insane.
It's impossible. You can't even like use it. So the 35 1.4 that I'm filming with this, if I throw that on the Fuji body and I try to shoot at 1.4, it's like literally the tip of the eyelashes in focus and everything else is gone. It's like, wow. It's so difficult. And you can't, the Fuji stuff, I love it so much. Autofocus isn't the greatest in the world. Medium format autofocus isn't the greatest in the world, period. It's never going to be super reliable. But I haven't been able to shoot anything really shallower than f4. I've gone to 2.8 and tried it. And even 2.8's a little dicey. Like you really start to lose, like the tip of the nose goes away. Like you just blur and then sharp and then blur again. It's tough. So everything stays at f4 no matter what anyways.
Why Tamron lenses? Because your photos can look like this, and this, and yes, even this. Whether enthusiast or pro, your photography skills can be heightened with the right lens. Tamron.
Yeah, not that you really need to anyways in the space that you're working in. I can't imagine you're shooting super wide open anyway. But and so is there even, you talked to me about this at WPPI, so I forgot, is there an autofocus compatibility then with the Tamron lenses on your Fuji, or are you all manual focus?
No, all autofocus is perfect. It's just medium format is a tough thing to autofocus with. Just it's always been tough. And if you look at any medium format camera over the years, Phase 1, even the Pentax 645Z or the 645D, all those cameras or Hasselblad, all of them are really just shit at autofocus. And the Fuji has been the closest thing that replicates a DSLR or mirrorless camera as far as autofocus goes. I trust it now that I've learned it. I've learned that you just can't shoot super shallow. If I keep everything at f4 and I trust the eye autofocus, it's great. And I'm using eye autofocus now and it's tracking my face pretty good at 1.4 as we're talking. But yeah, everything autofocuses perfectly. I have zero issues. The only lens that does vignette a tiny bit is the 24 to 70. There's a little bit of dark in the shadows that's easily fixed in post. But oddly enough, the 15 to 30, which I thought would for sure vignette, doesn't. Starting at 16 millimeters, you just can't use it at 15. So you zoom in a little bit and you get an incredible wide field of view at that thing. So if you're like an architectural photographer or something, that's like the go-to because there's nothing wide, at least that wide in the medium format world that I have found yet.
Yeah. Wow, that is wow. I never would have thought that it would have worked that well.
I didn't
would have
either.
thought there would have been massive vignetting.
And the adapter I'm using, it even gives you an aperture ring on the actual adapter. So it's just like using a Fuji native lens at that point.
Oh,
so
cool.
Being a lighting guy, you mentioned how important that is. You can't take a shot in daylight. What lighting are you using?
Westcott FJ 400s and FJ 200s, and I have a couple of FJ 80s. I'm one of the Westcott top pros. I've been with them for I think a year and a half now. And I love this.
Since they really fleshed out that system.
Yeah. That is a great flash system. And and I say this a lot because I was with Pro Photo for a little bit and I quit because I hated telling people they had to spend $3,000 on a strobe when I know that light is light. Like it doesn't really matter what's being used as long as it's giving you enough power and enough light. You can pretty much be happy with most stuff. From Pro Photo, Interfit. You guys remember that brand, Interfit?
Yeah.
So Interfit picked me up for a year, and I couldn't wait to quit Interfit. Their stuff was crap equipment. It's okay. They don't even make strobes anymore. We can talk shit about them. And that's when I kind of started eating my words a little bit when I was telling people, it doesn't matter what you use. It fucking matters what you use sometimes. And the Westcott stuff is, for the price you pay for it, is so good. It's so good. And I have zero issues with their strobes. Their trigger is awesome. It's a universal trigger that any camera manufacturer works with it. You still get high-speed sync and TTL if you use it. It's a really, really good ecosystem to get into, especially if you're like an instructor and you're teaching. You have students with Canon, Nikon, Sony on set. You can hand them the trick and they can all use it and get the same thing. Yeah, I don't do a ton of teaching, but when I do, it's nice to have that available to like just hand a student. Except for the poor guy who was like a Pentax shooter who was always shit out of luck anyways. Because there always is one. There's always one. I wish Pentax.
I feel like
I wish Pentax did better. I like Pentax, and man, they just shit the bed.
Well, I need all these brands to just hold on because, like, I don't want to see our industry shrink. Like, there needs to be like a variety of brands, and it's just hard to support all these brands. Like the brands that are kind of aging out of the market because that's like Pentax is like what your grandparents shoot. Or Olympus,
That's what I started with. I had a Pentax K10D. That was the camera I shot with Adidas. So that was the guy. It sucks that Pentax has gone that way because I like their cameras are like dust and waterproof and all that shit. Like it's great. It's just they can't get market share for some reason. I don't know what it is.
Marketing. And then once you don't have market share, marketing becomes more of a problem. And it's just a downward spiral.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It really is.
Thankfully, I look at Nikon and I'm like, thank God the Z9 is like good.
Saved them,
because
right?
like I've just been watching them just tank, and I shot Nikon for almost a decade. It's like, yeah, I switched away from them, but I don't want them to fail.
No, not at all. And like I think a lot of us thought that like Sony was going to absorb Nikon just to like save them. And that Z9 they just released a firmware today or yesterday for it. That gives you like 12-bit internal raw video recording. Ooh, that's huge.
Really
huge. That's a huge update. So there.
Yeah, I got a colleague locally that just got his, so I still want to check it out.
It's a cool camera. I've shot it once just as like a little like play around with it. It's great, and that's gonna save Nikon at least for the time being, for sure, because they were.
Circling the drain. Yeah. No, and I want to see these brands succeed because like you and I know and we all know from a brand perspective, it's not just brands, it's the people behind them. Like when we go to trade shows and conferences, we meet a lot of amazing people like tech reps and salespeople and marketing. Like there's just so many people behind these brands. I don't want to see them go away. Like it's more than just a camera brand succeeding. It's the people behind it too. So like this industry needs to thrive for a long time. So
absolutely.
But it's nice to see that you definitely, it sounds like you struggled with Interfit for a year and then you worked with ProPhoto till it didn't align with your ethics. And then now you're with Westcott. What I hate to see happen in our industry is when our brand ambassadors tend to be shills for products that they may or may not really like. And it sounds like you put a firm foot down in terms of like, if it doesn't serve you every day, then you're not going to use it. And here you are, you're adapting Tamron glass on Fuji. Like, you're making that happen, even though you're a Fuji shooter. And so it's awesome to see that you're putting this gear to work every day. It makes me trust what you're doing.
Yeah. Like I don't want this to sound like my ego's huge or whatever this may sound like, but I'm at a point in my career where I can afford whatever I need to shoot with. I can buy and be fine. And even if I wasn't sponsored by these companies that I'm sponsored by, I would still be using the products I'm using because they work. They haven't let me down, and I like what they give me. I like the images I get out of the Tamron glass. I do a fair amount of video work, and having all their lenses with the vibration control stuff in it has been awesome. The Westcott stuff works. It just, and I feel good about recommending it, just like the Tamron glass. I feel good recommending that to people because, shit's expensive. Like, that's it. Shit's expensive. And, Tamron and Westcott both align on a price point that most photographers can probably figure out how to afford. And that is huge to me because for a long part of my career, I was buying used equipment. I was shooting with, what was that speed light? SB28s or SB25, the old Nikons.
I had one of those.
Yep. Yeah,
28.
And I was
Dave
just
Hobby recommended those.
Yeah. And I was just making those work. So that's why I know when I say it doesn't really matter what gives you the light as long as it's something that's reliable. Interfit stuff was never reliable. Westcott stuff is super reliable. And the ProPhoto stuff was reliable, but just not the right price point for me to be comfortable telling people to use it.
Do you have a favorite modifier? Is there anything like your go-to that you want to hit like every time?
I use a medium octabank a lot. It's the right size. I try to keep my modifiers really small and compact because on a typical portrait, I'm probably going to use 5 lights, and I want all those modifiers to be gridded and very intentional with how they're placed on the subject. So I don't use a ton of the big 7-foot, 8-foot parabolic whatevers because I don't like a big wash of light because I feel like at that point you're losing the effect of the intended purpose of the light. I want very specific lights to hit where they need to hit. So the medium octabank is what I use a lot of. That and strip boxes. I use strip boxes on everything. So the 1x3 strip boxes are really good. I just got sent 2 of their new Apollo strip boxes. I haven't tried them yet. So strip boxes and medium octabank, and I'm a happy camper.
That's all you need. It sounded like a marriage of Justin and I's style because I am very much big soft light user. Justin is very much focused direct light on the subject, and it sounds like right in between.
For sure.
Yeah, I think we're cut from similar cloth. I love looking at your work, man. You've got some great stuff here, and
thanks.
I think our goals. We didn't bring you on to the show to interview you. We're just gathering data for our own purpose.
That's fine. There's plenty of work to go around. I want everyone to succeed. I want every photographer to be rich and happy and working every day. That's all I want. Because if we're all working, then everyone works together, and that's great.
And harassing people on Twitter.
It just harass the living shit out of people on Twitter. It really works. Make them block you.
I'm gonna circle back to kind of your work again, and I obviously there's a high level of post work going on here, and I don't mean an obvious amount of post work, but I mean a high quality of post work. Do you have any retouchers that you work with? Do you do all your own retouching? What's that process look like after you've taken the photo?
So honestly, 90% of the work is unretouched, besides a contrast bump, and that's it.
Wow.
What?
So anything that's been elaborate, like a giant set or anything like that, we've built those and done it all in camera. So if there's a certain photo, I'm happy to tell you about it. But for the most part, everything on my website is just enough post on it to bring it out of a raw state, and that's it.
Not even skin work then, huh?
Very, 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 very little. I do all my own retouching.
Yeah.
And so
that's surprising.
It's just how I'm using light to fill in those blemishes and fill in those cracks. Mm-hmm. So with my background in optometry, I really have a strong understanding of how light and how how eyes and the brain perceive light and what makes things work and what makes things doesn't. And if you want skin to look great, just get that modifier as low as you possibly can and blast it straight on, and it fills in all the blemishes for you. As the modifiers get higher and higher and higher, it's going to cast these little micro shadows on any type of imperfection, and that's when you're going to start seeing all those blemishes. So if you can get some type of fill light just low enough into the frame to hit them straight on, fills in all the shadows, fills in all the cracks, and it looks good.
Wow, I'm gonna have to play with that because I just assumed anyone doing commercial work at this level had to have a whole team of retouchers working on their stuff. We had Aaron Anderson on, another Tamron ambassador, and retouch was a huge part of the process. And there's no right or wrong way. All that matters getting there for sure. Yeah. But I'm just surprised. I think Rob and I are both surprised.
Yeah,
I was looking for secrets.
No, I would say the average portrait touch up or editing, whatever, is about 10 minutes, and it's done out the door. So like
I'm rethinking everything now.
It comes out looking like what you pretty much see. Like I said, I'll do like some contrast just to get some shadows back or whatever. But honestly, very, very, very little post work, especially all the stuff in my like conceptual work, like the big zombie and Halloween shoots I do every year. That's just a personal project that I really enjoy doing. I use it as like a Halloween card to send to clients, like Happy Halloween from me, but it's all done in camera. It cost me like thousands of dollars to produce those shoots because we're having costume designers come in and build monsters for us and the whole nine and make all of it. It's all just old school production stuff. And the funny thing is there's a CGI studio based here in Virginia that my agent also represents, and he wants us to work together on projects. And they were like, we don't really have to work with him. He's doing all of it that we would do in post anyways. So I love it. I love building this. I love looking through my camera and seeing what the photo's going to look like and not have to try to reimagine it later. Yeah, it's a ton more work up front, but it's like painting a wall. Like the more you can do to prep the wall, the better your end result's going to be. And if I don't have to go in there and spend 3 hours retouching and adding elements and all this stuff, and I can spend 20 minutes in pre building a little bit more of a set, then it's just more fun. It's more creative, and I enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot more. It's a bitch though, but I enjoy it a lot more.
Well, do you have any? I know you've already talked about, how your process about going about getting clients, but like, do you have any advice for somebody who's listening to this podcast, who's an emerging photographer, who wants to see themselves being rich and making lots of money, like you want everyone to be?
I want to be rich too. That sounds great. Yeah. The biggest thing that's helped me in my career, and it will help any photographer, and I feel like we've all heard this advice a million times, is do personal projects and shoot content and shoot stuff that you like to you like to produce, you like to shoot. Personal projects are incredible. They keep you sharp, and they keep your creative juices kind of flowing. At the same time, if you want to be noticed by these brands, you have to shoot stuff that looks like these brands shot it themselves. If you're a wedding photographer, Nike's not going to give a shit about you. It's just the end of the day. That's just the truth. You have to be showing them that you can accomplish high-end work that they can then use down the road. 90% of being hired by a large brand, large company, large advertising firm, whatever it may be, is that they have confidence in you that you can produce results. Not even if your photo is necessarily good or bad or whatever it may be, that they can give you a task and you can accomplish it and not waste their money. Because that's the end of the day. That's all that matters, is that they're going to hand you a budget of $50,000 and they know they're going to get something in return. So if you can show them that you can handle a production, you can handle set design, you can handle all this stuff, whatever it may be, they'll hire you. It's just how it kind of works. I wish there was a more sophisticated formula, but that really is it. Now, the top 1% of photographers, I don't know if you guys know who Art Streiber is. He's like the guy that shoots every celebrity. Yeah, we all know who that guy is.
I was swooning over his Jurassic Park.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Covers.
He's fucking the king, and he's the top 1%. He's in the Annie Leibovitz world. He's in the David LaChapelle world. The chances of getting there are literally just you happen to know someone who can get you into that world. I've had to reality check myself a few times about this. Like, why aren't I shooting that stuff? Well, I'm not shooting that stuff because I'm not in LA and I'm not out there doing a ton of those type of network. I just don't know those people because very little people know those people to begin with. So shooting just really high quality stuff and shooting stuff that looks like it would work for a brand will get you hired. I'm big at harassing on social media now that I've talked about it. I was bugging Art for a while, like, hey, I just want to have a phone call with you. And he finally agreed, and we had a chat one time. And I was like, can you look at my stuff? Just look at like 2 of my photos. Tell me what you think. And he looked at it and said, your stuff's great. I go, I think so too. Why aren't I doing work like you? And he just was straight up with, he's like, I just know the right people. And that's all. It's just what it came down to. He just knows those people to get in front of, and that's just what it is. So a lot of this work is knowing the right people at that top level, is just knowing those people to get you out there and hopefully something works out. Aside from that, personal projects, awesome. And then shooting stuff that brands that it would align with those companies. Again, if you want to shoot for Lululemon, your portfolio better look like Lululemon's work. Simple as that. And then pray to God.
Pray to God what?
They answer your email when you start to email them.
Is there anything? Well, you live in Washington, D.C. I mean, obviously, we've heard how it hurts you as far as like not being able to put you closer to that industry where it sounds like you would like to be. Do you see yourself leaving DC ever, and how does DC help your career?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. I've been contemplating the move to LA for a couple of years now. I don't do a ton of work out there. A lot of my work is actually more East Coast driven. A lot of stuff in New York, a lot of stuff actually Midwest and like Texas and that area. It's big fish, little pond here in DC. So that's good. A lot of my work though isn't local. I would say 30% of it's local. A lot of my stuff is on location and it's travel. It's getting less and less important to actually physically be in places like LA anymore, just because social media and just because it's easy to get places now, even more so than ever. And the reach that you can have to these agencies and companies is even better. So I don't know. I don't know if it's super, super important to be in LA anymore. 10 years ago, yes. But with film now being really big in Atlanta, big in New Mexico, big in these other areas and these other markets, you can kind of be anywhere you want to be and really make something work. I've done a lot of high level work here in DC. I do all my stuff for Apple here in DC as well. So, there's pros and cons to all of it. I don't want to live in LA or move to LA unless I absolutely have to, and I know that the work is already lined up. I don't want to be that case. It's like, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to make it, and then you come back a year later and you're broke. I don't want to be that guy. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people are those guys, and I commend you for it. Like I commend people for giving it that old college try. I'm a little bit more calculated than that, and I can't risk just hoping. I don't know. LA, man, it can really just make or break you. And if I had like 2 or 3 regular clients out there, I might do it. I would probably do it at that point because I can figure out everything else. I will be out there soon to do a portrait session with this guy, Sam Reich, who was the owner of College Humor when that was all huge. And now he's a head writer for Adam Ruins Everything for True TV. We're doing a portrait session together. And maybe that's going to lead to something else. I'm really big on shooting comedians right now. That's like my focus for the next probably 6 to 8 months and see where that goes. Yeah. So I'm trying to work with more people in that world. Other than that, I don't know. I don't know if you need to be in LA anymore. I hope not, because it's just one more barrier to entry. I'm just tired of this.
Yeah, I think you're right that we're really seeing it spread out. We're seeing we're seeing brands be more intentional about finding that right connection and then making it work regardless of where they are.
Yeah.
Whether that means like traveling out, but you have a whole wide sea now that you can connect with and reach out to. So I don't think that and it's only going to diminish more as time goes on.
I think so too. And I don't want to say I hope so, because that's a terrible thing to say, but production needs to get more around the country. We've shot a lot of television spots in like upstate New York because it's super cheap on production costs and you can get a really, really good look out of it. So productions are becoming more countrywide and not just stuck in LA. So hopefully it just starts to spread more.
You just mentioned New Mexico, and like that's fairly recent, right? And yeah. I believe that's due to tax incentives, right?
Huge tax incentives to do productions in New Mexico. They're trying to make New Mexico to like the next LA, next Hollywood. They're really, really doing their damnedest to do it.
So Tucson has been very prohibitive of the industry coming here to film, and it's pissed me off because there was like I think it was a Public Enemies was a movie with Johnny Depp and Christian Bale. It was a John Dillinger bank robber story. He famously escaped the police, and after a fire broke out here at their Hotel Congress, they didn't film any of the movie here because there's no incentive to film here. So they like fake did Tucson, which pissed me off because like that's our like Dillinger's like a huge part of our city's history. And now I think they're incentivizing things again, and our city has kind of opened up some avenues for it. So we have HBO out here. They just filmed a production with the guy who played Sawyer from Lost. He's out here. They just wrapped season 1. They'll start filming season 2 again. Another show's opened up. So now you got my wheels spinning. I'm like, dang, how do I get closer to that production? Because I would love to shoot like set photos or some kind of marketing type piece for HBO. But
yeah,
big whale dreams.
That's been a huge goal of mine too. Is I've worked with Netflix a few times on some still stuff, and I'm actually next week I'm filming a portion of a documentary about Build-A-Bear of all things in Pennsylvania. But shooting like movie poster and movie marketing material has been a huge goal of mine, and that sucks that Tucson won't. That was not incentivizing bringing production. It brings in so much money into a town, like it's so much money. I don't know why they wouldn't want that to happen, other than the obvious things, but like, I don't know. That's strange.
Oh, I got a good one for you. You ever watched that show, The Last Man on Earth? It was a Fox show, I think. You ever heard of that?
Yeah.
I forgot what his name was. He's in Tucson. They're in Tucson, but it's all filmed in like Palm Springs or like east of LA area, between Palm Springs, like Indio Desert area. It drives me crazy.
That's super annoying. That's super, super annoying.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's LA.
Yeah. Before we let you go, like I just want to ask you, like, you've worked with a lot of big clients, so I feel like you've already hit a bunch of big whales. But like, what's your biggest whale right now left on your bucket list?
Jeff Goldblum. I really want to take his picture so bad. And honestly, this sounds really sad. Gilbert Gottfried was on my list for a long time, and that sucks. He passed away like yesterday or day before yesterday. Jeff Goldblum's a number 1. Shaquille O'Neal's a number 2. God, if I got Jeff, I could quit tomorrow and be okay. That would be just fine.
He'd have to be like not wearing a lot of clothes when you do it either. He's a daddy.
I would do something so weird with Jeff. Man, I've thought about Jeff for a long time. Be a really great. Oh, did I jump off it? There we go.
You're back. You're back.
That was weird. Jeff would be a huge shoot. I would really be stoked on Jeff. As far as brands go,
I will be happy to retweet for you.
If you guys just let Jeff know, that'd be swell. Yeah. Brands and companies. I don't know. I've worked with Coca-Cola before. I've worked with some pretty big ones. I don't know. Honestly,
Jeff Goldblum. That's good.
Jeff's a real solid one.
Yeah. Well, if you're ever in Michigan, you can always look up Rob. If you're ever in Arizona, you can look me up. If you ever need any kind of set hands or just like, I'd love to see what you do. But if you ever find yourself out here, give us a holler.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks for coming out with us today, and we appreciate everything you've shared with us. It's been great, and hopefully we can have you on again.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate it too. It's been fun.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, guys.